Hey everybody, Chad Shoop here, and welcome to my latest edition of Bank It or Tank It. This week we're doing a quick take style where we have 5 stocks that you all have recommended based on my last YouTube video. They left in the comments below, these stocks came up, so thanks to everyone who's leaving the comments. Continue to let us know what stocks you want us to feature in an upcoming video, just like we're doing today. We're going to run through these stocks pretty briefly. I already have the price charts pulled up. I already know some unusual options activity that we're going to take a look at, because all of this helps guide us with what to expect from the stock next and whether or not it's going to end up on my Bank It or Tank It list. But today, look, with what's going on in the markets right now, just the other week I told you that my kind of big backdrop on what I'm seeing in the markets is that I'm expecting this bear market to roll the S&P 500 over back down to those pandemic lows, which is about another 40% drop from where it's at right now. So this is a massive call on the S&P 500, and really the only reason I'm saying that is because the Federal Reserve is intent on raising rates. So as long as they want to continue to push interest rates higher in the face of a recession, in the face of a stock market that's already in a bear market, they're continuing to raise rates. Because when you look back at what the Federal Reserve has done, when they're raising rates in good times, and then the stock market continues to climb, the economy's growing, and then all of a sudden it hits the economy and it hits the stock market, and we see slower growth in the economy, and we see the stock market enter a correction or a bear market thanks to the Federal Reserve tightening the economy. Right now, because inflation is out of control, they are having to tighten during a weaker economic environment and a weaker stock market environment. So I think all that's adding up to a pretty big crash that we could see here over the next several months. I mean, this bear market could take a year or so to play out. So I'm not calling for any big crashes this week or next week. We are still looking for bear market rallies that we want to profit from, and you'll see all that play out as we dive into our stocks today. So let's pull up the first one. Again, thanks for everybody who's leaving stocks, letting me know which ones you want me to cover. Continue to leave the comments below in the video, and if you like the videos, click the like button. Be sure to subscribe to our page, and just continue to let us know what you think about the content that we produce. So we'll start with our first one, American Electric Power, ticker AEP. And you can see this one's been pulling back more recently, and this is what I've talked about also here as we go back just over the last couple of weeks. I was saying that you want to look at some of the stocks that we're seeing the strength here throughout this year, and then eventually they would start to see weakness and pull back. This was a quick drop for the stock. We see it's trying to recover pretty quick here. Now I have the key levels that we're going to pay attention to. We have a long support here, and this really comes back to why we do these Bank It or Tank It videos, right? The key levels, this is how you can help navigate a bear market or even a bull market, but especially in a bear market territory. We know when this thing breaks below these key supports to just get out of the way, to either look to profit on the downside or just to get out of the way, because more volatility is ahead. So we're going to continue to cover key levels throughout all the stocks that we look at. That's why I love doing these Bank It or Tank It videos. And look, this is a major support that goes back to 2021 that is just pushing this stock higher. But what I wanted to watch is this previous resistance level. It hit these peaks through here, and then we had a breakout from that, and now we came back down and fell back below that. So this could have acted as resistance, now it could still act as support. So if that acts as support, that would be great. If this stock pulls back and falls down to about this level and then bounces from there, that would be great to see. Either way, right now we have 2 support lines that we're watching for AEP. So this stock is going to be on our Bank It list for today. We want to see this one continue higher. We can see that it's red on my profit radar right here. So red means it's in the lagging quadrant. But what we'd expect next is it to enter the improving quadrant, which is blue, and then leading, which is green. So to see it kind of push along this path where it's heading higher. So this was great to see a nice turnaround in the lagging quadrant, and we're going to look for that to help propel it higher from there. Now there's no unusual options activity that came up really for that stock. So let's go to our next one, Schlumberger, an oil and gas stock. Again, holding up nicely, and then finally saw some weakness here in June. Quick little pullback. Now I got a few trend lines here on the chart that I want to talk about. So first thing, it's in the lagging quadrant. And I just said for the other stock, for AEP, it was in the lagging and was starting to turn around and see that big move higher. So that was kind of a bullish turn signal, because we know when we come out of the lagging, we can go into improving and leading, and we can make the full transition. And that's always great to see. But when it's in lagging, it can continue to fall lower as well. It doesn't mean that it's at an immediate spot to turn higher. So just because it's at lagging doesn't mean we're looking for the buy opportunity just yet, but it is something to put on your radar. Now, the key levels that we were watching here, we have a longer term support This goes back to the 2020 lows in October, all the way up. We had a bounce test off of it here in 2021, and then we're right back at it today. So this is a major support to keep an eye on, because if it breaks that, then it's down to this other support, which is going to bring it down into the low 30s. So this is what we're watching in the short term. And then I added this red resistance line here to look in the very short term, because it was really acting as support for this little rally that we had. I mean, it's kind of testing it, bouncing off of it a little bit, barely touching it. Then it exploded higher. And now on the way back down, it showed much of us resistance as support. But then when I started to draw the line, then it comes back and it acts as this top as well. So it has some significance to it. It acted as the top here. And then we actually broke out of that at this point, broke out, pulled back, tested this line as a support, closed above it, and then pushed higher out of that, and then held above it. So this gave that line some significance here for us to keep an eye on. And also it creates a nice upward price channel between this green support line and this red resistance line. So that's a nice little price channel that this stock could fall in. It would mean that it's stuck in a rising price channel, but it's still headed higher. So for now, Schlumberger is going to be on our bank list today as well. Again, lagging quadrant means that we are looking for it to turn around. So it could head into the improving quadrant and then leading. So if we get that turnaround starts to happen above this major support, that's all great to see. If it falls below this support, then I'm not really interested in keeping it on my bank list at that point, because we're expecting it to fall back down here to around $31.50 or $32 a share. But with Schlumberger, we did have some unusual options activity to pull up. So let's zoom in on this, and I just want to throw it up here on the side of the chart where we can take a look at it. So SLB, Schlumberger, all the activity that came up, this goes back to June 13th, so just a couple of weeks ago. It's neutral for the most part. You can see up top here, neutral, put the call ratios, basically 1. So pretty even. When we see the money, on the money side, I have to scroll over a little bit, but you can see that the money side on the puts are heavier. All the call side are just under $100,000 on the call side. Put sides are all above $100,000. So even though there's fewer put option trades, they are carrying the most money behind these trades. Now, I like to look at more of the recent ones up here. So this first one is what's interesting to me, and it's because they went out to September. They bought the $32.50 put, which I just mentioned that this stock could fall to $32 if it fails to hold that support. So that's probably what they're looking at right here. The stock was around $37 when they put this on. So they're already betting on a pretty big decline just to get into the money for the option. So deeply out of the money strike here for somebody throwing down, $272,000 on this trade. And that's a sweep, which means that they wanted to execute it urgently. So when we look at this, they put it on, this was June 28th, and they had that 32.50 strike, which was just on Tuesday, and they were looking at it to fall way down here to 32.50, and they would need it to even fall below that to start to make money. So this is definitely looking for it to fall back down to this support line and then possibly break below that. So they're trying to get ahead of this move. They don't see this support line holding, and that's great to see that this trader is really using the key levels. They're looking for more weakness out of this. I'm hoping that this holds and continues to move higher. So I'll go against the unusual options activity on this one for now. Keep it on my bank list and look for it to move higher. Now, our next stock is Grow. Now, I had to look at what this company does, and they're a financial services stock that really has different mutual funds and areas for investors to invest in. So a unique company, but when you look at it, I mean, this stock shot up very strongly there out of the 2020 lows into 2021, and then just crashed, just rolled over, continued to fall below there. But you can see that there's green line on the bottom. This is a double bottom that they're trying to form at the moment. And, going back historically, this is right around a price range that this stock is comfortable trading at. Since 2018, this stock has kind of bounced around this price range. Now we're testing it today. So this is going to be a major level of support. By no means is it as low as it can go. This is just where the stock's typically traded at before that big burst that we saw there through 2020 and 2021, before it all came back to reality. So seeing how it's trading in here, it's in a lagging quadrant. You can see that this went from lagging to improving, back to lagging, back to improving, then back to lagging again. Now we're waiting for it to go back to improving, and we're just waiting for it to break out of this little consolidation pattern that it's in. So we have the green support. That's a major level to watch, and this red resistance. So I'm going to throw this on my bank list again today. 3 stocks in a row on my bank list, because I like the little triangle pattern that is forming here. I think we can get a breakout to the upside of this. One more at least push higher before we ultimately maybe break below this at some point, and the stock gets back into this trend where around $4 is the average price that it trades around. Just right now, with how beaten down it is, and it is consolidating here around this key level. So we can see this breakout to the upside, get a nice little push higher before it ultimately drifts lower. But this is the key level to watch. If it closes below this, again, then it's a tank it stock, and we don't want to mess with it. We can expect it to move much lower from there. So if you want to trade bearish trades, that sort of thing, that's when it's time to jump in. But as far as the upside, we're right around that support level right now. So it's a great opportunity to look long for the stock and see if we can get a breakout to the upside. Now, our next company is 3D Systems, DDD. So this one also has a nice little wedge pattern down here that we're just getting into. You can see this is the downtrend for the stock that it's been in, testing some of those lows on a downtrend. Then it broke below that, came back up, retested it. So this is a pretty critical resistance level that we're going to be tracking. Then fell off of that, it's trying to create another support, another test of this resistance level, back down, now back up. So we're bouncing around in this little wedge pattern now, but these are definitely the key levels to watch. It is green. That means it's leading the market, and you're not seeing much positive action in the stock. So that means that next we would expect it to weaken and then fall into the lagging quadrant, which would ultimately look for putting this thing to the downside. So since this stock is in a clear downtrend with so many clear levels to watch, this is another long-term resistance level that we want to keep an eye on. So for me today, I'm going to throw this one on my tank it list. We're going to look for this one to head lower from here, because even if it breaks out of this red resistance area, which is a key resistance area to watch, even if it breaks out to the upside of that, we have this other resistance area that's not far above it that we're going to want it to test before we would look to get bullish. Once it breaks out of this area, then I would look to get bullish for, the next few months. But until that happens, I'm going to keep it on my tank it list. I think that if this resistance line holds, that this thing could fall even further from here. And yes, I know that this is a popular stock. It's trading around $10 a share, so people think it's a big bargain. But look, stocks can go much, much lower. It can go from 10 down to $5 or $4 a share, another 50 to 60% drop, just like that. And the smaller the share price, the more volatile it's going to be. So look, this is in a wedge pattern right now. We're expecting a big breakout. I'm going to keep it on my tank list. I'm thinking that this thing breaks out to the downside. Now, not much for unusual options on DDD, but on our last one, Suncor, we do have some unusual options that we want to pull up. But first, let me just highlight this major long-term trend that we're watching in the stock. That's great to see, but I started to draw this horizontal support here in orange just to highlight that this could be a neckline for a head and shoulders pattern that may be forming. Over here would be the left shoulder. Then we had a nice run out of that. That created the head. And now over here on this side, we were up again. That was up on the Tuesday where the market had a big reversal. So this was great to see. Very bullish news. But again, if it just consolidates here a little bit and then rolls over, then we're looking for this thing to fall down to about $32 a share. And all it did was create a head and shoulders pattern at that point. And if it holds, then it's going to continue to climb higher. And if it breaks below that, then a major run lower. And, along the way, it could just support right here could step in, act as support. So looking for this to make maybe a head and shoulders pattern to not go much higher than where it is today. So that's about $37 a share. I expect it to stay below that. I'm going to throw it on my tank it list. I'm going to expect it to head lower to test this support that's going down here as a neckline for the head and shoulders. That's going to be a nice little pullback for the stock, and that's going to be the key level that I think that we'll ultimately be testing here over the next several weeks. But this is something that I would keep a close eye on because it is in an uptrend, so I don't want to fight that too much. We can see that it was lagging here as it's moving higher, and after that, we would expect it to improve and then go into leading. But it could definitely spend more time than just 2 days in a lagging quadrant. So this lagging quadrant could start to help it roll over here before we get to lift higher. So this is it's an interesting stock. It's going to be something to keep an eye on for sure here over the next couple of weeks. Let's pull up some unusual options activity on Suncor and see what was going on. So this one, I know we had some activity, quite a bit. The flow sentiment here for all this back to June 13th is extremely bullish, 79 rating. And we can see we have the flashing, that's gold here. That means that they are definitely unusual on multiple levels that they pick up here at Flow Algo. So seeing this, we have a July 15th expiration, a September 16th, both call options. One goes back to June 13th. So June 13th back down to here. So that was not a good call for that one. But then the other one came in on June 22nd, which was down here. So it was more near the bottom. And that was this one up top. So let's see what their premiums were. 1.5 million and 1.7 million. So they're really putting some money on the line, betting on this rebound. And, you know, with his kind of money, honestly, this could be the same person because they got in on June 13th. They got beaten down, went down here. They doubled down on the trade, essentially throwed another 1.5 million down, looking for this thing to rebound. But they bought more time out to September 16th with this one. And they're already in the green on this one. It's heading in the right direction. But more recently, June 23rd, the 24th, 27th, we have a lot of red, a lot of put options coming in there, and the premiums were still getting up there, 425,000, 207,000. So some nice chunk premiums there. And you'll notice some of these are out to just June 24th. I mean, that has already expired. These July 15th are just a couple of weeks away, so not a lot of time left in those. That's why a lot of the times when I do these videos, I look for the ones that they're buying a little bit more time on. I mean, right now the scales are definitely tilted towards the call side. They're definitely tilted towards the calls thanks to this big 1.5 million trade. But you know, you see a lot of the more recent unusual trades are coming in on the bearish side of things. It did move higher. Again, the whole head and shoulders possible pattern here, the way it's just playing out looks a bit too clear to ignore for me. So we're going to put this one on a tank list, but keep a tight leash on it, just $37 a share. If it closes above that, then we would switch. I would put it as a Bankit stock, looking for it to hold above that and continue to make a run above $37 a share. So that's really going to be like my line in the sand. As I watch for this thing to teeter and look at which way it's basically going to break out of that. So tank it stock for today, going against the unusual options activity that came up. And that happens from time to time because you see all these trades. I mean, this is a big money trader that's basically doubling down on a stock that's made one heck of a run in the energy sector. And I see a lot of things cooling off in the market. That's part of my big backdrop as far as how I'm viewing things right now. So I can see this one pulling back quite a bit more here over the next several weeks. And even a couple of months for Suncor Energy. So that's all for my video today. Again, we dove through 5 stocks. These are all stocks that you all left comments on my last YouTube video. So continue to leave comments. Let me know what stocks you want me to feature in any upcoming articles, issues, YouTube videos that I do. We just love using the stocks that you all are focused on and interested in, so that way we can make the most out of these videos and the most out of this volatile time and basically help you. We have the key levels, the key areas to watch, because whether you do agree with me or disagree with me on the ultimate direction that this stock is heading, we have the key levels. We have the key facts and information here on the price chart to watch and to see how things are going to trade over the next several weeks. So we really peel back the curtain, let you see what's going on with these companies at a more granular level, and hopefully you have something to walk away with. So that's all for today. Until next time, I'm Chad Chu.